I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
On the northwest coast of France, just south of Brittany, lies one of the most important prehistoric sites in Europe. At the seaside village of Karnak, over 3,000 megalithic stones are placed in rows over 2 miles long. The Karnak stones were hewn from local rock formations and erected between 4,500 to 2,500 BC, at the end of the Stone Age. They are the largest collection of standing stones in the world.
Archaeologists are baffled by the many megaliths at Karnak here. It's clearly a massive construction project with blocks of granite weighing 50 to 100 to even up to 350 tons. Legends here say that giants built Karnak, but you have to wonder, what is the real purpose of these giant megaliths, and why would prehistoric people have moved all of these massive stones and placed them in the many alignments here at Karnak?
Thousands of large stones have been arranged in very interesting patterns. They're arranged in intersecting lines that form triangles that could only be visible from above the earth. These arrangements of stones may have been a way of communicating with extraterrestrial beings.
The ancient Greek poet Pindar spoke of a mystical land called Hyperborea, far to the north, where the sun shined 24 hours a day. Legends claim that Apollo visited Hyperborea, traveling in his chariot of fire every 20 years.
Apollo, who tells the Greeks, okay, I've got to go see some other people, I've got to go and teach them. And they're like, well, where are you off to? And he's like, well, I'm actually going to a place that's beyond where the north wind comes. It's the land of the Hyperboreans.
Although mainstream archaeologists speculate that the Karnak stones are most likely tomb markers, ancient astronaut theorists believe these stones are intentionally laid out in a unique geometric formation.
Many speculations existed since centuries. And only a few years ago, in France, they started to photograph this whole French Brittany by helicopters. And when they put the pictures together, of a sudden someone realized, hey, this is not coincidence. The distances of the lines are always the same, 2,860 meters, or exactly the half of 2,860 meters. The angles are always the same. It's Pythagorean triangles. It's all a gigantic geometrical pattern from Stone Age, which is impossible. Our Stone Age people had no idea of Pythagoras triangles. Pythagoras was about 420 BC.
Even though the geometric arrangement of the Karnak stones predates the Pythagorean theorem by more than 2,000 years, one question remains. Why were the stones arranged in such a precise pattern?
The Karnak stones are one of the few things on the planet that can actually be seen from space. And they're a perfect marker for any kind of aerial vehicle looking down on the Earth. Many of the tourists who come here to Karnak claim that they can actually feel the energy emanating from these granite megaliths. How did these ancient people know about this energy? And is it possible that they were able to use this energy to even move and erect these giant stones?
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly. My mommy always said there were no monsters, no real ones, but there are.
Yes, there are, there.
Now, these Nephilim, I've always wondered, I don't know about you, when you've studied the Bible, you see God says, destroy all the people in Canaan, destroy all the people in Sodom and Gomorrah. Why would God not have mercy on any of these people? There's a good reason. Explain.
Well, the reason simply is this, that we're dealing with a demonic hybrid known as a Nephilim. I believe there were many different incursions, if you will. Genesis, you mentioned, of course, Sodom and Gomorrah. Later on, when they push into Israel, the land of Canaan, who were there? The Nephilim are there. And the mandate is always the same.
Now again, the Nephilim were the fallen angels had sex with human women and produced these giants and these hybrid, if you will.
Hybrid, sure.
Okay, and if God could not get rid of them, they'd take over the earth.
Well, not only that, they would pollute the genome of the Messiah. That's really is the end game, especially in Genesis 6 with the flood.
And I've never heard that. I always heard it was the Native Americans, but this is that even the Native American folklore and history tell me one of the things you heard about this from Native Americans.
Just one of the things, the Paiute tribe, for instance, there was a race of cannibal giants. They were very large, and the Paiute would fight against these giants. And at one point in time, they herded them into a cave, and they set the mouth of the cave on fire, and they wiped out that tribe of giants. Interestingly enough, that cave still exists today.
Tell me about the Smithsonian and the bones that they have found of what could be the Nephilim.
Sure. We discovered that case after case after case, 9, 10, 11 footers were found, and the Smithsonian shows up. And they confiscate the bones, and they put them in crates, and they're carried away, never to be seen again. And we have case after case after case.
But if I was the Smithsonian, that would be my major exhibit. What could possibly be the reason that it's been taken from public sight?
Well, the reason is actually very simple. The Smithsonian adheres to a Darwinian paradigm, a Darwinian worldview. They believe in Darwinism. Anything that comes up against that, anything that comes up against it must be put aside, dumbed down, just completely cleared off the table. And this, of course, goes against the Darwinian theory because where did these people come from? It's not the Beringian land bridge, that when the Ice Age and they came across the Bering Strait, that blows that whole theory out of the water. These people came from something else. I believe that the tribes in North America and in South America are the remnants of the Nephilim tribes that Joshua and Caleb pushed out of the Promised Land when they conquered it about 3,500 years ago.
But wait a second. If they killed all the population, how could they migrate then to the United States?
They didn't kill all the population. It would stand to reason as they begin to move in to the Promised Land. The giants see what's happening, that the Israelites, first of all, have the power of the Most High God, and they are annihilating all the tribes. So the Amorites, perhaps, and maybe the Perizzites over here, some of these guys go, we got to get out of here. Some flee northward, and we have a trail that we believe follows that. Some flee across the Atlantic Ocean. And the workings of Thor Heyerdahl, for instance, proved that you could sail just on the currents from Egypt and wind up in South America.
L.A., why do you see these skulls that you are finding out about, especially in Peru and the United States, are partially human?
Well, this skull here looks sort of human, except, of course, it's elongated. You can see the way the sides of the skull go up. A normal human skull consists of 4 plates. A frontal plate, and by the way, these are sutures here. A frontal plate, then you would see another suture that would go and split the parietal, which is the center plate, in 2 pieces. Mm-hmm. Well, and then, of course, the occipital, the rear plate. What you see here is a frontal plate, which has been greatly enlarged, and it's got this very strange ridge bone on top of it. And then, where there should be 2 parietal plates, there is only 1 parietal plate. We saw many, many, many skulls down there with these characteristics. We also believe that this is a female skull. The male skulls are about like this, much, much larger, much more robust.
My goodness. So then you can see where some of them came to America.
Absolutely.
And that's why they're finding these skulls and these bones. And some of these bones they're finding show that the people were how tall?
Well, there's 9-footers, 10-footers, and 11-footers, and even pushing the border up to 12 feet in some of these burial mounds. And again, going back to Smithsonian, we have report after report from newspapers telling about once a town would exhume the bones, and a doctor, a man of letters, would measure the articulated or the disarticulated skeleton. A disarticulated skeleton is when the bones are just laying all around. But a doctor, a man of letters 100 years ago, can read a tape measure. And yet when you talk to an archaeologist, they will tell you they didn't know how to measure, which is, in my opinion, a bunch of nonsense. So the Smithsonian would come in, they would confiscate the bones and crate them up, and you would never see them again. They were just gone.
What a cover-up.
Absolutely.